What is up, boys and girls? Welcome to TVET Tutorials. My name is Doc, and I am back. Yes, I am back with another video for you guys. As you can see, today we are answering yet another previous question paper from Labor Relations N6. As per usual, I'm pretty much going to be answering a couple of questions from this particular question paper, and I will be explaining the answers to you guys. Right, so let's go ahead and pull up the questions. There we go. Right, so first question reads as follows: discuss the following types of bargaining. Right, so first we have distributive bargaining, then we have integrative bargaining, and we have attitudinal structuring, and then there's intra-organizational bargaining. Right, so the first one, distributive bargaining, is a competitive approach to negotiation where the parties involved focus on maximizing their own gains. Right, it often involves a fixed pie where one party's gain is the other party's loss, typical in situations where resources are limited and each party wants to claim as much as possible, and it can lead to a win-lose outcome as the gains of one party come at an expense of the other. This one is pretty much self-explanatory. This type of bargaining is that type of bargaining where only one party will gain and the other party will be at a loss. Right, so we remember when we talk about bargaining, we are talking about two parties sitting down to reach an agreement. Right, so that is what bargaining is, and basically the distributive bargaining favors one party over the other. Right, so let's go ahead and look at the other type of bargaining, which is integrative bargaining. Right, so integrative bargaining is a collaborative approach to negotiate where the parties work together to find mutually beneficial solutions. It emphasizes creating value and expanding the pie by finding creative solutions that meet the needs and interests of both parties. It often leads to win-win outcomes as both parties can benefit from the negotiation, and typically used when parties have a long-term relationship and want to preserve or enhance it. Right, so basically this type of bargaining is one that you find between businesses. Right, say for an example, you have a company you have a bakery company that gets its bread from another company. Right, so if you decide to sit down with that company that would supply you with bread, that's a horrible example. Right, so integrative bargaining basically is the exact opposite of distributive bargaining. Right, because instead of favoring one party, it actually tries to find level grounds for both parties to both benefit. Right, and this is the type of bargaining that you find between businesses. Right, so if maybe you have a restaurant that is having an agreement with a delivery company that is maybe going to deliver whatever people are ordering from that restaurant. Right, so that type of bargaining will be as such that both companies are actually benefiting from this agreement. Right, it's not going to be a situation where maybe the restaurant or the delivery company is gaining more than what the other party is gaining, or what at the cost of what the other company is losing. You understand? So this is more of a mutually beneficial negotiation. Right, and we have another type of bargaining, which is attitudinal structuring. Right, so attitudinal structuring involves shaping the attitudes and perceptions of individuals or groups involved in negotiations. Right, it focuses on changing how parties view each other, the situation, and their goals to reduce conflict and facilitate collaboration. Right, this approach may involve mediation or third-party intervention to help parties shift their attitudes. It can be useful in situations with strong emotional or physical barriers to successful negotiation. Right, so if if one party is in a situation where they have to convince the other party to buy into their idea, that would be this type of bargaining, right? So if you have company A sitting down with company B, and company A has to convince company B why they need to invest into their new business idea, for an example, then they would be involved in this type of bargaining, right? Where company A is trying to convince company B, right? And then we have intra-organizational bargaining, right? So intra-organizational bargaining refers to negotiations and conflict resolution that occur within an organization, typically between different departments, teams, or individuals. It can involve issues such as resource allocation, conflicting goals, or disputes between employees and managers. The focus on resolving conflicts and reaching agreements within the organization itself without involving external parties, and the outcome can impact the organization's efficiency and internal working relationships, right? So these are typically negotiations that are happening in-house within the organization, hence the term intra, right? So when you see the word intra, that refers to something that is within, right? So these type of bargainings typically happen when you get things like conflicts between departments or teams or even other employees, right? And when you as a manager have to sit this employee with this employee and try to resolve a conflict or try to reach an agreement, right? That would be this type of this type of bargaining occurring in that instance. Right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next question, which is question 3.2, right? It says state 5 differences between centralized bargaining structures and decentralized bargaining structures. Give your answer in table form under the headings centralized and decentralized, right? So I went ahead and added this extra one just to sort of like give us a mind map. However, you guys don't have to mind this. I mean, I always emphasize on following instructions. If you are instructed to add only 2 subheadings, so you are expected to only add 2 subheadings, just as I did over here. And then this one is just to help you guys sort of like understand clearly about what I'm talking about, right? So yeah, this is our table right here, and let's go ahead and look at our answers. All right, so we are required to tabulate 5 differences between centralized and decentralized bargaining structures, right? So we are going to be looking at these 5 differences in certain aspects, right? So we need to rate these two types of bargaining structures on something, right? So this is this is the part of that table, right? So these are the aspects, right? So in terms of decision making, this is how centralized and decentralized bargaining structures are different, right? So centralized bargaining structures, decisions made at a higher level and apply across the organization or industry. So this means that with centralized bargaining structures, decisions are made at a higher level and they apply uniformly across the organization or the industry, meaning only the guys at the top call the shots. If the CEO is saying we are implementing a new policy, everyone within the organization will have to oblige, right? So that is the type of bargaining structure, right? And then with decentralized, in terms of decision making, right? Decisions are made at the local or individual level, allowing for more customization, right? So that means that if I am just a typical employee working for company A, I can just go to my supervisor and explain maybe if I have a conflict, and then it can be resolved right there, right? It does not have to be escalated to seniors or anything like that, right? So with decentralized bargaining structures, the decision making is placed at a local or at an individual level, right? And then let's go ahead and look at the second aspect, right? So in terms of bargaining power, with centralized in bargaining structures, the central authority often has more bargaining power in negotiations, right? So say for instance, you are the one who comes to me and you want to negotiate something with me. Usually it will be you or it will be me who has the negotiating power, since I will be the central authority. I will be the one who gets to decide whether the negotiation becomes a success or not. You understand? So the bargaining power will be more favorable from my side, right? However, at a decentralized bargaining structure level, the bargaining power, local entities or individuals may have more autonomy in negotiations, right? So remember, when it's decentralized, that means decision making is made at a local level or individual level, and that allows for a more customization of processes. You understand? So same thing as bargaining power. If I'm able to approach my supervisor and say, I have a conflict with this, how about we try this, that, and that? You understand? So with a decentralized bargaining structure, it allows that much versatility. You understand? Because local entities or even individuals, they may have some sort of negotiating power, right? And then let's go ahead and look at another aspect. Remember, now we are covering the third difference of each, right? Each type of bargaining structure. So now, in terms of consistency, centralized bargaining structures promotes consistency in labor terms and conditions across the board, right? So it promotes this is the type of bargaining structure that you would use when you are maybe negotiating for with a company for a very long period. You understand? If maybe you want to be in business with this company for, say, maybe 5 years or 10 years, you would need to go into the negotiation applying the centralized bargaining structure, right? Because it promotes consistency. It will allow the person that you are negotiating with to trust that whatever you are trying to sell them, it will be a very consistent it will produce consistent results. You understand? And then with decentralized bargaining structures, in terms of consistency, it allows for variations in labor terms and conditions based on local needs or preferences, right? I mean, if I am able to go to my supervisor and say, hey, I have conflict with this system, how about we try it this way? And my supervisor says, yes, let's go ahead and do that. If the organization has placed maybe that particular system that was using in place in order to ensure that there's always productivity because they trust that system, you understand, that it will sort of like sway the consistency away from the whole thing, because now there's this new system that is being used. As much as we are getting as much as we might be getting profit, or we might be getting positive outcomes, however, now there's a bit of inconsistency in the mix, because now we are changing the system, since I am able to just go and suggest or make decisions locally or at an individual level, right? I hope it all makes sense. If you are getting lost, please let me know in the comment section and I will try to clarify. Let's look at another aspect, which is communication and coordination, right? So in terms of communication and coordination, the centralized bargaining structure is easier to it makes it easier to communicate and coordinate negotiations from a central point, right? Remember, everything is more in order in a centralized bargaining structure. So when we are communicating, we know that we are going to implement proper channels, and whatever needs to be whatever message needs to be taken across the table, it will be taken effectively and received effectively. So it promotes proper communication, right? So with decentralized bargaining structures, in terms of communication and coordination, it requires more effort to coordinate negotiations across multiple decentralized units. So imagine if now you have 3 employees coming to the same supervisor with different different inputs on this particular system, or maybe multiple systems, right? It will make it a little bit difficult to coordinate around the whole processes as a whole, because now you just have all these employees who are able to make decisions or make suggestions. You understand, things like that. Again, if it does not make sense, please let me know, and then I will try to break it down even more. And then the last aspect that I will be looking at is flexibility. So in terms of flexibility, centralized bargaining structures may be less flexible in responding to unique, local, or individual needs. Now remember, these ones, the decision making is all at the top. So the employees at the bottom, who just have to comply to whatever policies are being implemented from the top, have no say in those policies. They just have to abide. You understand? So they make it less flexible in terms of accommodating the personal needs of each individual at the bottom. You understand? Because they are just focused on what is coming from the top, right? And then with decentralized bargaining structures, in terms of flexibility, it creates more adaptable, or it is more adaptable to local or individual requirements and changing circumstances, right? So meaning, if today I try this new process that I suggested to my supervisor yesterday and it turns out to not work, I can still come back and try maybe suggest a new process. Right, let's go ahead and look at the last question for the day, which reads as follows. Give 5 reasons for permanent dismissal. Right, so 5 reasons why you would be permanently fired from your job. Right, so let's look at the first one, which is gross misconduct. Right, so basically gross misconduct is are serious violations of workplace rules such as theft, violence, harassment, or dishonesty. Right, so we know that in the work environment there's something called a code of practice. Right, so a code of practice basically gives us a mind map of how we are expected to behave in the work environment. Right, so if you break these rules, they actually give the employer enough reason to permanently dismiss you. You know, if you do things like theft, or if you fail to comply to safety rules, you know, things like that. If it has to do with anything with how you are expected to behave in the work environment, it is considered as a gross misconduct, right? And it can get you permanently dismissed from work, right? And then another reason would be insubordination, right? Insubordination basically is the willful refusal to follow lawful orders or instructions from a supervisor, right? Now, with insubordination, there tends to be a confusion, right? If a supervisor is asking an employee to maybe do a particular task that they would typically do on a daily basis, for an example, right? And the employee refuses to carry out that task without any valid reason, that would be considered as insubordination, right? However, if there is a valid reason why that employee is unable to carry on with a task, then it cannot be classified as insubordination, just as long as there is no valid reason as to why you would refuse to follow a lawful order, then it's not insubordination. You understand? So there has to be a non-valid reason for it to be classified as insubordination, right? And then another reason why one would be permanently dismissed is chronic poor performance, right? So basically constantly failing to meet job performance expectations despite warnings and opportunities for improvement, right? If you just do terrible at your job, it's enough reason for you to be dismissed permanently. right? And then the last reason is breach of confidentiality or a breach of contract or something along those lines, right? So basically that means unauthorized sharing of sensitive company information or okay, 1 2 3 4, that wasn't the last one. And then we have breach of confidential. Let's pause for and then we have the next reason, which is breach of confidentiality, right? So basically breach of confidentiality means it is unauthorized sharing of sensitive company information. If maybe you signed an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, to not share certain information, and you go ahead and you share that certain information you are prohibited from sharing, it is considered as a breach of confidentiality, and it is a very good reason why you would be permanently dismissed, right? Or it's a valid reason for you to be permanently dismissed, right? Because this is something that is frowned upon. And then we have the last reason for the day, which is fraud, right? Deceptive actions or financial misconduct that harm the employer or the business, right? If you basically lie to the organization so that it gives you more money, it's more reason, or it's a valid reason for one to be dismissed. Well, that is that buffet too. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching this video and you still haven't subscribed, click on that subscribe button, click on that bell icon so that you get instant notifications for every time we drop new content. All the links to our socials will be appearing on top of the screen. Do make sure that you check that out. If you want us to cover a specific topic, let us know. We will make it happen. Now, as I always say, buffet from myself and my team at TVET Tutorials. Adios.